Hey everybody, I want to take the time and welcome you to my channel. So those of you that are not familiar with me or what I do here or why the algorithm actually brought you here. I specialize in creature design for games and film, and I'm going to tell you how we approach thumbnail sketching. However, this method that I'm going to do, not only have I not done it before on my channel, I think that it might spark some imagination in all of you, especially those of you that have been kind of in a rut when it comes to sketching. So what we're going to do, just picture this picture plane right here. Okay, so it's going to fit inside the camera. As a matter of fact, why don't we just sketch out where our fake canvas is going to be. Okay, just kind of like a little story block. Okay, and I want you guys to do the same. Train our brains to stay within a confined area. Just really subtle. It doesn't have to be the world's most perfect rectangle. Pretend like you're going to do a little storyboard block here. Okay, and within this, we're going to take advantage of everything. Okay, now, those of you out there that probably have developed a habit of drawing too small, loosen up a little bit. Take your pinky, okay, and rest the pinky on the page first. Float your palm off of the page. We're not pressing hard, people. And we're not taking the pencil and gripping it towards the very, very end. What that does is it forces you to do minute details, and you don't want to jump into that yet. What we want to do is explore. These are the exploratory lines. We're going to start on the outside, and we're going to work our way in, and then I'm going to tell you how to refine all of those lines to form a creature. Let's do it. So, lightly put in lines that normally you would feel uncomfortable with. So why am I asking you to do this? Every single one of you that draws, every one, I say we because I'm an artist with you, we have comfortable lines that we stick to. Now, for me, I like drawing exoskeleton shapes. I love bugs, I love insects and creatures with exoskeletons, and it's just my thing. I love it. Okay, so I tend to draw things a little aggressive and rugged. All right, so whatever your niche is, or whatever you feel like you're drawing, try to do some lines that are opposite of that. So with me, I'm doing more rounded, bubbly shapes. I don't do those, but let's see what happens. Now, those of you looking at your screen, it's probably very light right now, and you can barely see any of these lines. Good, mission accomplished. If I turn this up just a little bit, you'll probably be able to see some of them, but I want the lighting to be showing on the paper as it would in real life. So there's no editing here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to see all of these weird lines coming over here. It's going to look like a hairball. We're going to start picking out specific lines that intrigue us. Now, when you're drawing a cluster of lines, you have a tendency to press harder in some of them more than others. All right? I'm just kind of whipping my pencil across here, and all of a sudden, this very weird, odd shape is forming within that rectangle. We have darker lines, we have some medium ones, and we have some light ones that are so light we can't even really tell what's going on. We're going to use all of this to our advantage. So if you're already nervous, just take a deep breath, in your nose, out your mouth, place your hand on your paper, and start drawing, and quit worrying about what you think your drawing is supposed to look like in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because it doesn't matter. Okay, let this happen. Okay, we have some strange little bulbous shape here. We have a really big section happening right here, totally unplanned, and we have this weird knob coming out. Now I could look at this and go, yeah, sure, it's an alien creature with a knob right there. Trying to see some shapes that maybe we can bring to the forefront. This is kind of almost like a twisty shape. So why don't we play around with this? maybe that's an underbelly of something. Be kind of cool. And I'm looking up here and it almost looks like a shark fin. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play with that a little bit, darken it just a tad. And when I say darken, I mean, notice how my fingers are in the middle of the pencil and they're not going any closer. The farther back you go, the less control you have in detail, and the better your lines are going to be. Until you learn how to control line weight and master it, when you put your fingers up here, it's going to make you want to do details, and I don't want to do it there yet. So I'm just going to put it back like this and just kind of go with the flow here. Also, notice that I'm allowing all of these lines to overlap without the need for perfection. That's good. Okay, so now the question is, does it have legs? Does it have wings? And is there even a freaking face? Well, my first assumption is no, there is no face, but let's see what we can do. I'm going to put some strange little holes on the outside here. And let's see what that allows design-wise for the entire creature. I can hear it now. I can hear everyone's thoughts. Put some tentacles in there. It's a giant mouth. It's a dragon mouth. There's teeth. No, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I want to force myself to do a shape that I normally wouldn't do in there. Guess what that would be? Probably something softer, like another sphere. Okay, this is totally something that I would not do normally. But I still have to honor that perspective. It's just whipping around there, so maybe as it's coming around here, there's another sphere. Whipping around here, it's a little, these are a little closer in succession due to perspective. Okay. I still don't know what's going on, and that is the fun part, and it's also kind of scary, but in a good way. It's a good thing. Okay, so let's see what happens. So I'm just kind of playing with the lines that I already have here, and I'm just going to layer these off. All right. It almost looked like a skull at one point, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to become a floating creature. So this is what I think I'm going to do. This whole thing is an appendage on the left side of its body. So if this thing is kind of flying but slightly tilted, as if it's an airplane banking to the right, we're going to see those wings on the other side. Do a very light perspective line coming down, just pretending that the perspective is somewhere off here to the left. I'm sorry, the vanishing point. And let's see if we can bend that. Not sure how that's going to work. There we go. Now, how did I know only to put that right there? Okay, there's the shark fin. I'm just going to call it the shark fin. It could be the face for all we know. How did I know to put that there? Well, I'm here to say that majority of perspective comes with trial and error. You're just going to have to work through learning perspective and dipping certain points to a vanishing point. The tip of this will go down to a vanishing point off the screen. Okay, that vanishing point is an imaginary one. As long as we as designers have perspective going to a believable vanishing point, the perspective will be believable. It does not have to be exact. I just want you to remember that. So I don't need you guys to take a yardstick and measure off the vanishing point off of the sketchbook and 2 feet over on your desk and put a little dot there. You could. I mean, who's to say that you can't do that? But if you just make these believable, you're fine. Okay, let's see what else is going on here. Looks like this rounded shape could be definitely a good thing if I just finish that off here. Maybe these aren't really part of the larger body. Maybe they're appendages coming off the side. But I'm starting to get this idea that maybe, since this is so rounded in the back, what if we just connect it as a membrane? So imagine an airplane, but instead of super crisp, aerodynamic, sharp edges, like the SR-71 Blackbird. We have bulbous shapes instead. Okay. I need to figure out what to do with these spherical teeth, I guess we can call them. Why don't we play around with this and actually, instead of having them sharp, let's just round them off right there. So they're not really teeth. They're almost like feelers. Maybe this creature floats in the air. And instead of those being teeth, because there's nothing to chomp on, okay, there's no chomping going on. Instead, it's more of an alien feeling, or alien feelers kind of hovering down there. Okay. Now we need to figure out the center line too. So if this is a center line, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these teeth on its left side. So I need to account for those 4 on this side. Now I'm not sure if this perspective is going to work, but we'll see. There's 2. Okay. Remember that perspective we did up here? Guess what? That applies down here too. But they all have to converge respectfully to that vanishing point. So you can see that my perspective is off. It is off. Because what's happening is this, okay, this one, that same tentacled tooth is supposed to be up here. So that could actually be hidden. I just saved my drawing, I think. There we go. Okay. That normally will not happen, but it does come with experience, so you will get to that point. It just so happens that I got kind of lucky that I drew the other tooth in perspective by accident. Okay, now that we have our basic shape in here, now we're going to have a little bit of fun. So let's just start playing with the belly and what could exist. Okay, let's start thinking about some shapes in the back where the hips would be. I'm saying hips because I'm envisioning this thing being a living, breathing entity, but it's not like anything we've seen on Earth. So there actually is no animal comparison to this. It's totally alien. However, I am thinking about flight and about wingspan and proportions. Okay, so there still needs to be studying when it comes to Earth animal anatomy. Like for example, the size of the wing compared to the body. Does it float? We'll see what happens. But if you find yourself designing something with no real world animal that you can think of that most closely represents it, start thinking about how the appendages attach to the larger body. Start thinking about that anatomy. So for example, this large wing coupled by this oval, how does it attach? Well, how do membranes attach on a bat wing? Or birds without feathers, if you can just study the skin of it. Okay, maybe we can put in some little ribbings right there so it attaches to that. I'm going to use some line weight right here in the front and down here. I'm just going thick to thin, not caring about perfection. And I think I want to put this really cool kind of soft unicorn knob right there as it's floating by. So much fun, so much fun. And it's not complete. I'm going to put an eyeball up here. Okay, kind of bulbous, almost like a hippo. Okay, and I have to account for that eyebrow over here. So I'm just going to put that little bump. So now we get the illusion that there's structure going around. But you know what? I'm going to keep it really weird. I'm not going to draw a mouth. There's going to be no mouth on this. So you're going to imagine what's going on down there. Okay, that's not the mouth. That's just this shelling coupled together with the bottom. So maybe it's like a turtle. Who knows? This is the fun part, guys. And remember, this started with just scribbling large shapes and bringing them together. Okay. Now, as far as proportions go, yeah, I can probably swing this wing out here. Maybe there's a skinny membrane out here and connect some really thin ribbing. Yeah, it looks kind of neat. Of course, it would have to be in perspective over here and flattened like this. So yeah, now it's almost like an airplane. So, who would have thought that? Kind of cool. So I'm just going to put in some subtle dark shading right in the crevices where I know the least amount of light is getting to. That's where you can get away with shading in something all black or something close to it. Okay, and then we can just put some subtle darker shading at the tips of these hanging appendages, because what that does is it helps bring it forward. I'm not applying a lot of shading here, everyone. It's just a play on values, dark coupled with the lightness of the belly behind it. Dark, light, dark, light. Always look at your drawings, okay, in grayscale. And if you're doing something in Photoshop and you're painting it and it's in color and you're wondering why it looks flat or why your colors just suck, do it in grayscale first to see how each individual section of value is playing against the other. And I will say this though, if you master values in pencil, then when you transition to digital painting, it's going to be so much easier, so much easier. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is how I would transform a smaller thumbnail. Well, I'm sorry. This is how I would handle a smaller thumbnail if I were to draw it bigger. And of course, I'm putting a little bit more time and effort into this, mainly to show you all how I would do it, but also it's bigger, so these lines are more visible. Okay, and remember, no sharpness, because that's usually my go-to. So I'm just going to round off where I would be putting sharp spikes. Okay, so that's not even really serrated, it's just, slightly rounded. And I'm just going to put some shading in there. There we go. So hopefully you enjoyed today's lesson, everyone. I know this is a little different than normal. Tell me if you enjoyed this. Tell me what you're drawing too. I'd love to see this. Check the links in the description below for our Creature Design Workshop Discord. Let me tilt this up a little bit. There we go. So the lighting, yeah, it's got that kind of shine on the sketchbook, but this is how it's looking. Now I could definitely go several more hours on this, but I'm not going to, because that's not the point. However, people have been asking me, when am I going to do my 5 to 10 hour drawing? It's already been planned out. I already know what I'm going to record. It's going to take a little bit to record each section because I want to give you guys the best experience possible when it comes to that. I want you to see my entire sketching process for my really, really big time illustrations. Okay, because I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Thanks, everybody. And hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully you drew something today. Comment below and tell me what you drew. Comment below, tell me what frustrates you about art. And hopefully I can help. I read every single comment. The good, the bad, and the trolls. All right? I welcome everybody. Till next time, everyone. Peace.